Right. So today I have the real honor and pleasure of inviting Dr. Bradley Nelson. I am so honored to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Viv. It's really great to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Now, Dr. Bradley, we are going to talk a lot about your work, your mission, and your highest self. But before we start, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see where to begin. This whole healing journey of mine began when I was 7 years old. I was kind of really miraculously healed. I had the measles and I was really sick. And my mother asked my father if he would say a prayer for me. And so my dad is praying for me, and all of a sudden I had this change that went through my body and I was instantly healed. And I was only 7 years old, but you can't forget something like that when it happens. And it was just really remarkable. And that taught me there's a higher power we can draw upon. And it also taught me that healing doesn't have to take a long time. It can happen instantaneously, right? And so then as years went by, at 13, I developed kidney disease. There was nothing medically that they had to offer. And I was healed from that through some holistic doctors. So I decided I wanted to be a doctor, a holistic doctor, when I was 13. But then I discovered computers in about 1980, and I became a computer programmer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided I was going to be a computer programmer for the rest of my life. And but then I got an answer to prayer about that original dream of mine of being a healer. And I got a very clear answer, actually, that's what I was really supposed to do, which was remarkable. And anyway, so I went to chiropractic school and set up my own practice when I got out. And because I had been a computer programmer, I was always trying to use a computer in the work that I was doing and kind of trying to combine things. And so I always had a computer there with me. And gradually, I came to understand that we are each a computer in a sense. In other words, each of us has a conscious mind, which is where we spend all of our waking hours, and we take our classes and we work our jobs and have our relationships and so on. But then we also have this subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is the part of us that it's really the internal computer that is running everything and creating millions of new cells every minute and keeping our heart beating and so on. And so what I learned was that that subconscious mind within each one of us is essentially a binary computer. And what that means is, if you think about your phone, for example, what's the interface? Well, it has a screen where you can see things, and then you can touch things and respond with your finger. So it has a touch screen interface. If you're working on your laptop, like I've my laptop in front of me, I've got a keyboard and a screen. The subconscious mind has a different kind of interface. It's a binary interface. And binary just means that it's either a yes or a no. And so the subconscious mind can give answers, I learned in practice, as long as the answers can be in the form of a yes or a no.
Right.
And essentially the way that this works is, if what I found in practice is that when I would ask a question, I would get a response, involuntary response from my patients, where if I were testing their arm, if they were holding their arm out parallel to the floor, I would ask a question about what's going on with their body, and I would get an answer, either yes or no. And it would be totally involuntary. They wouldn't be able to resist me if I was pressing down and the answer coming back from their subconscious mind was no. And I didn't actually discover this. This is something that's been around for quite a while. But what I did in my practice is I found that I was able to ask the subconscious mind and get answers about things that were incredibly important. When people would come in to see me, oftentimes they would be really ill. In fact, during the last 10 years that I was in practice, most of the people that I saw had been told that there was really no hope for them at all in Western medicine. There was no drug, no surgery that could cure them. They were doomed to live with this disease or die with it. And what I found was the subconscious mind knew why they were having these symptoms. And so what I would do is I would ask questions and get answers, and then I would attempt to fix the imbalances that were going on that were being revealed by their subconscious mind. And so it was amazing how well it worked. In fact, people would come to me with all kinds of different problems, and some people would get well right away, and other people would take longer. People don't get sick overnight, but it was amazing the confidence that it gave me. I built this database gradually because I always had a computer there with me, right? Being a total nerd and always trying to catalog the things that I was finding. And what I found finally was that there are really six different kinds of imbalances that create all of these problems that we have, all of our mental and physical and emotional symptoms. And those imbalances really are things like pathogens, like viruses and bacteria that can move into the body and set up housekeeping, toxins, things like misalignments of various tissues that can happen in the body, nutritional issues, lifestyle issues, imbalances in the circuitry of the body, disconnections between the spirit and the physical body, emotional baggage. So I wrote the book, The Emotion Code, because emotional baggage I found was the single biggest imbalance that people suffer from.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing, to write that book and then and to see the success that it's had, all over the world is really just so amazing. It's in, I'm not even sure how many languages. I think probably close to 25 languages now around the world. And so it's been an amazing game changer for so many people all over the world, because it's allowed people to begin to heal themselves. And emotional baggage, basically, to understand what this is, if you think about the body itself, I mean, if you look at your hand,
it's just energy, isn't it?
It's really just energy. Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, we don't see that. We see a hand, right?
We just see the mass, but if you break it down, it's just cells.
Yeah. If you go past the level of the cell and past the level of the molecule to the atom, you see we're really just pure energy.
That's right. Yeah.
So our bodies are really more your body's more of a force field, really, than anything else. It's really interesting. So anyway, what happens is when you're experiencing an intense emotion, sometimes the energy of that emotion can become trapped in the body. And a trapped emotion is like a little ball of emotional energy from about the size of a baseball to the size of maybe a softball. And what these things do is they distort the normal energy field of the body. And so they, by doing that, they ultimately create a lot of physical pain. I mean, 90% of all the physical pain that people have is actually due to their emotional baggage. And we see this all the time. We have practitioners, we've certified almost 12,000 practitioners in over 80 countries around the world. And they all find the same thing, that physical pain responds unbelievably well to just relieving emotional baggage, to just getting rid of the trapped emotions. And the beautiful thing about this is anybody can do it. It's easy to do. Kids can learn how to do it, and kids are having great success all over the world.
Beautiful. Love to hear that, because we all carry trauma. No one can escape trauma, and emotional baggage is trauma, generational trauma. We can carry 20 generations, without knowing
or
it, in our
sometimes even
subconscious
more.
mind. Yeah, even more. Yeah. And the trauma is, I'm thinking disease. can that create,
Yes.
you know, cancers, all sorts of diseases in the body, because
Yep.
it's trapped trauma. So this
Well,
is
yes, exactly. That's another thing that I found when I was in practice, is that all of my patients, no matter how young or old they were, no matter what they were suffering from, they all had that in common, that it was the emotional baggage was a big piece of their suffering. And sometimes it was the only reason. I mean, in my experience, for the most part, usually things like depression and anxiety and phobias and panic attacks and PTSD and eating disorders, they're being caused by emotional baggage. You release the emotional baggage and those symptoms go away. In my experience, I also saw that every disease process that I have seen over 35 years or so now, every single disease process that we suffer from as human beings has an emotional component. And, you know, when you're diagnosed with some kind of a disease, usually it's not just one thing. Sometimes it is. And more often than not, that one thing is just emotional baggage. But usually if you're diagnosed with some kind of a disease, there are a number of different kinds of imbalances that are going on in the body. Think back about the 6 kinds of imbalances that I was telling you about. But emotional baggage is always a component. I mean, if you're diagnosed with cancer, or you are diagnosed with an autoimmune problem, or some other kind of, you know, a tumor, or I mean, whatever it might be, if you're dealing with infertility or asthma or digestive disorders, there is an emotional component to that. And Western medicine does not address that.
at all,
you know,
really.
no, they look at other things, but they don't address that component. And so, I mean, think about how many times people go through some traumatic event. You know, a man loses his wife, and then a year or so later, he's diagnosed with cancer. Or a woman goes through a divorce, and a few years later, she ends up having some kind of disease process. Well, there's a connection between the emotional trauma. Sometimes the emotional trauma is something that happens in childhood. You know, maybe we're abused, or maybe we go through some intense things. Maybe we go through a divorce or a breakup, or, you know, there's all kinds of things that we experience as human beings, all kinds of difficulty. And what we now know, though, is that those difficulties that we go through can stay with us in the form of these emotional energies that lodge in different places in our bodies, and then distort the normal energy field, and then also create symptoms for us and imbalance our bodies to a point that we end up becoming susceptible to disease processes. So the beautiful thing about the emotion code is that it's easy to find and remove emotional baggage. And so, and you found that you've been working on yourself, right?
Yeah,
A little.
I've been trying, as I mentioned before we started, I do this exercise where you're supposed to take some deep breaths, relax, and put your arms alongside your body, put an intention to a question. It has to be yes or no, as you said. And then just close your eyes and see whether your body falls forward or backwards. And if it's forward, it's a yes, and if it's backward, it's a no.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah, we call
I
that the
used
sway
that.
test.
Yeah. So I used to have a pendulum, and I used to use that quite a bit, but I actually
Uh-huh.
turned into this exercise now, because as I mentioned as well, when I do some running, and that for me is solving problems and meditating at the same time. And if
Yeah.
I do get a question, I stop and I do this exercise, and it's been very, very helpful for me. I find it extremely, it's been spot on so far. So I think we all have the answers within. It's just,
Yep.
how do we tap into our subconscious mind? And this
Yep.
is super simple. I mean, I'm going to teach my kids how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's really all about that question. How do we tap into the subconscious mind? Because it does have all the answers. And most of the time, especially in the world that we live in now, we're so distracted that messages from the subconscious mind don't get through to us. We don't meditate, most of us, right? We don't take the time to really listen. But that's part of this work is teaching people how to ask questions and get very concrete answers from the subconscious mind about things. And it's amazing how powerful it can be. Let me share a couple stories with you, actually.
I love to.
Yeah, there was
Very interesting.
There was a woman that came to see me once who had been well, there's so many stories. A lot of them are in the Emotion Code and Body Code books, by the way. And so this book, the Emotion Code, came out in 2007, and it looks a little different these are what they look like in English, of course.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. And anyway, yeah, I remember a woman came in to see me one day who had been hospitalized for 5 days with this terrible pain in her abdomen. And they had run every test that they had, and all the tests were negative. And so they finally released her from the hospital. And so we can't really help you because none of the tests show anything. And so goodbye. And so she came in to see me, and she still is in this terrible pain. She's about a 9 on a 0 to 10 scale. And so, so using this system that we call the body code. And in fact, if you want to, I don't know if I can, are we just audio, or can I share
we
video?
do video as well. So show it. Go on and show you. You can share your screen. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Give me 1 second here and pop this up really quick, and then I'll share my screen. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is what the body code actually looks like. Okay, and these are the 6 different kinds of imbalances. So eventually I was able to create an app for this. And so it's available on your phone. We call it the body code system. But anyway, this is the same thing on my laptop. So this woman comes in, and I don't know what to do. She's in terrible pain. They haven't found anything in the hospital. So I started asking questions of her subconscious mind. And I was guided to release some emotional baggage and a couple of other things. One of the things, though, I was taken to this area, the body code. So the way that this works is when we ask questions, if you can imagine, she's holding out her arm and I'm asking, okay, is there a reason why you have all this pain? Yes. Where's the reason? Is it on the left side of the chart? No. On the right side? Okay. Is it in the pathogen area? No. Is it a misalignment? No. Is it something in nutrition and lifestyle? Yes. Is it on the left side? No. So is it in the nutrition area? So her subconscious mind, right? And that's how this works. The subconscious mind will take you to whatever it is. And so it took me to nutrition, into this chart right here. And so I asked, okay, well, is this, obviously there's some kind of nutrient that she needed. Is it in column A? Yes. Is it in one of the odd rows? No. So it's in row 2. So is it carotenoids? No. Chloride? No. Cholesterol? No. Choline? No. Chromium. And chromium showed up.
Wow.
That she needed it, right? And so I thought, okay, chromium is good for blood sugar. And, you know,
wow,
it's kind of an incidental finding, I thought. And I told her, I said, listen, I said, we're out of chromium right now. We usually carry it, but we're out of it. So, but I think you should get some at some point. And so, so I didn't find anything else, and she's still in pain, but there was nothing else that her body indicated that she needed. And so she goes home. So the next day she comes back in my office, and she's actually worse. She's like at a 10 or more of pain. Right. And I remember thinking, my gosh, you know, they must have missed something really bad in the hospital. I didn't know what to do. She was in so much pain. And so I broke out the body code and I started asking questions again of her subconscious mind. And I was taken to nutrition and lifestyle, to nutrition, to nutrients, and I was taken to that again. And I had totally forgotten about it. I didn't pay any attention the day before. And all of a sudden, when it shows up as the very first thing on the very next day, I said, I don't know why. I have no idea why. But I said, I think your body really needs chromium. And I want you to leave my office right now, go down the street to the health food store, buy some chromium tablets, and don't even wait. Ask them for some water and open it up and go ahead and take some and then come back. 20 minutes later, Viv, this very athletic young woman is literally jumping up and down in my waiting room.
Wow.
My practice, and she's saying, I'm fixed. I'm fixed. She said, the moment that she took the chromium tablets, the pain was gone. And it's completely gone. Never came back either. And she said, how did that work? And I said, well, I have no idea. But her subconscious mind knew that she needed that, you see. And so that's the power of this, is that the subconscious mind finally is being given a voice so that it can guide us to things that we really need. I remember another case, a woman came into me. She told me that she had a chronic cough. She was coughing all day long and all night long. She'd been to the hospital. She'd seen a couple different doctors. They'd done CAT scans and MRIs and X-rays of her lungs. Her lungs looked totally fine. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with her. But she told me that her husband, months before, this had been going on for an entire year. And she said her husband had moved into the other end of the house and that their marriage was starting to show signs of stress. And she was afraid she might end up in a divorce because of this cough that she could not get rid of. So using the body code, I tested her and found that she had a toxin. And asking a few more questions, I found that it was a specific toxin, a liniment called camphorphenique. Camphorphenique. It's something that it's made of camphor and phenol and so on. And people would rub it. It might be banned now because it was pretty toxic, but anyway, people would rub it on their body. The skin, one of those things, kind of a tonic. And I arrived at that through muscle testing. And I said, do you use camphorphenique? And her face turned totally pale. She said, camphorphenique? And I said, yes, do you use camphorphenique? And she said, well, every night, she said, the last thing that I do is I go to visit this elderly woman who's been a friend of our family forever. And she loves me to rub her feet with camphorphenique. Oh, wow. And I said, well, that's the source of your cough. And so, so I finished treating her and she never had another problem, no more coughing. But so you see, the subconscious mind knows it knows the answers. It knows the reasons why we have problems. One more story. Yes, bring it on. Okay. Well, there was a man that came in to see me one day. His wife had referred him, and he told me his story. He said that 4 years before, he was driving his truck. He was a truck driver. He was in his mid-30s. And all of a sudden, his scrotum started to swell and became incredibly painful. And he couldn't drive anymore. And he could barely walk. And he started seeing doctors to try to figure out what was going on. And he kept seeing doctors. He had to go on total disability. He couldn't work anymore at all. And 2 years into this, they did surgery on him and they opened him up and looked around and didn't see anything obvious. And they sewed him up again and it all came back again. And it was so miserable. And so anyway, 4 years, okay, he's been disabled for 4 years with this problem. And so he comes into my office and tells me this. And he tells me that he's seeing doctors up and down the coast of California. That's where my practice was. And he every month or so, he would go up and visit doctors at UCLA Medical Center, University of California, Los Angeles. Wonderful medical center, very advanced. Or he'd go down to Scripps La Jolla, Another amazing, very advanced clinic. And I think he was kind of a medical mystery. Nobody knew what was going on with him. And so anyway, I started asking questions and muscle testing him, and was taken right here to pathogens, to parasites right here. And I said, I think you have parasites. I think that's, a cause of this. And so I said, has anybody mentioned that that could be a possibility? And he said, no, nobody had, he'd never heard anybody talk about that. So anyway, I recommended some parasite supplements for him. And about 5 days later, he didn't want to take them. It was just some herbs, to kill the parasites. He didn't want to do it, but his wife made him do it. And about 5 days later, he came back in my office and it was all completely gone.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, he was about the happiest young man I think I've met in my life. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the body code. And, the body code system includes the emotion code. The book, of course, explains all about how all of this works, the body code book. The emotion code book is just about emotional baggage, which is part of the body code system, finding emotional baggage that became trapped when you were in the womb, or maybe from before you were conceived, or that you inherited from an ancestor, or that you're sharing with someone else. All of these things. The body code has all of the organs and the glands listed in it. It has disconnections between the spirit and the physical body. And the beautiful thing about it is you're able to, we have all the instructions in here on how to fix things. If the subconscious guides you to a certain area, then it will tell you also how to correct that thing that you found. So it's quite revolutionary. The emotion code, really, to use the emotion code, if you don't have the body code, you can just use this chart, and and we teach you, how to do it, and it's actually really easy.
Have you met a lot of resistance from normal traditional doctors with your work?
No, none whatsoever.
Brilliant.
Yeah, in fact, we have a lot of medical doctors, a lot of nurses who they're joining us all the time. In fact, just recently we had a medical doctor who signed up with us, and he said to us, I don't really totally understand this, but I'm very interested and I want to learn this because see, 20% or more of all the doctors and nurses in the United States have left the profession because of COVID and what happened, and what a nightmare that all was, and how a lot of people could kind of see through what was going on there.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother interview, I suppose.
We can do that one as well. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
But isn't this what we need to have in the future? Because we are spirit beings having a human experience. And if we tap into the subconscious mind where all the wisdom and all the knowledge resides, and if we can work, medicine, tablets can be very good short term, but long term, we need to go to the bottom line and prevent disease. And we need to integrate this holistic approach that you are so passionate, and which is also your mission, But what do we need to do for doctors to come to that point where we incorporate like healing and spirit into the medical world?
Oh, it's happening already. It's happening already. And I think that it's like anything else. When a change takes place, you think about the automobile, and what people would say about the automobile. Well, God gave us horses, and that's what we need to use. And if you go very fast, you'll die. They used to think that if you went faster than, I think, about 30 miles an hour, it would actually be fatal for you. And so there were people that were that were very invested, and like people that made buggy manufacturers, and people that manufactured whips for horses and all of that. It was a huge industry. But when the automobile came out, people started to realize, okay, this actually works, and it actually is a little bit faster. It's actually quite a bit faster than having to, and it doesn't require feed. It's just easier. And that's kind of how this is. It took a while, but then it was the change was gradual and then sudden, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen with this as well. The change has been gradual, but then pretty soon it will be sudden. We have, I think I mentioned we've certified around 12,000 people now in the emotion code. And those are people, we have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of other people that are using it. But we have a percentage of those people who use it who decide they want to really master it. And they might even want to do it for a living. And so we have certification available for those people. And we've certified around 12,000 of those people in 80 different countries around the world. But, and there's a mix in there of all kinds of people who came in not knowing anything about health or healing at all. And then on the other end of it, we have nurses and doctors, and we have a naval architect in Germany. We've got, it runs the gamut of people all over, and but they're all finding out that this is powerful. I want to share a story with you if I can. Just really quickly. This is on our website at Discover Healing. Really quickly, I just want to share this with you because this just came in, and we had a meeting yesterday. We have a meeting every week, and this is our website at discoverhealing.com. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go to these testimonials, because every day we post a testimonial. We've got thousands, over 10,000 of these. But the one that I wanted to share with you is, I think it's this one right here. One of the most important parts of the emotion code, of course, is about the heart, because we often build up a wall around our heart that prevents us from being able to give and receive love. And so this woman wrote in, her name is Deborah. She said, in the last few months since I started doing the emotion code on myself, I've removed several heart wall emotions, as well as many trapped emotions in other parts of my body. I can't believe the difference in myself. I am becoming the person I always wanted to be. The person I knew was inside, but often didn't show up on the outside to others. I smile much more. I'm not easily aggravated or defensive. I'm not picky about stuff, wanting things my way. I like people more, and they like me more. My past experiences and inherited or absorbed negative emotions were trapped inside, making me reactive. And that's exactly what they do. It didn't take much to make me feel irritated, overwhelmed, or insecure. Now, when I experience unpleasant things, I'm able to say, oh, well, and deal with it calmly and logically. Removing these trapped negative emotions, especially the heart wall, has literally changed my life. My husband and I are closer. My kids and I are closer. My relationships with others are stronger and deeper. I make new friends much more easily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm now getting certified because I want to pass on the blessing of the emotion code to others. That's just a typical example, of how powerful this work is. And
the heart is the brain as well, the second brain, right?
Yes, it is. It's the second brain. And so a lot of the stories that we receive are about that, are about the heart wall and those emotions that wrap around the heart and what they do. And of course, it's a mechanism, I think, that the subconscious mind puts up around the heart. And I don't know if we have time to read this one. Do we?
Read. I love it. I enjoy myself. I'm enjoying myself. Okay. Yeah.
This is from a woman named Mary. Now, this is also about inherited trapped emotions. She said, thank you for your wondrous discovery and how openly you shared it. At 63, I stumbled upon it a couple of days ago via an interview of a year ago. I could no longer feel my heart nor see the light during meditation. Your approach seemed like it might be the way to open my heart. I stayed up through the night listening to your videos and taking notes. By morning, I attempted to do this on myself. The first heart wall emotion I cleared was abandonment. That night, abandonment came up again as an inherited trapped emotion. You see, we inherit emotional energies, and you alluded to that a minute or two ago, that can go back for many generations. You said it was from my mother's mother's mother, who had been widowed suddenly in Newfoundland 100 years ago when her husband's ship en route to New York sank. Your guidance was so helpful that I remembered the whole family would be present, so I engaged in a dialogue of yes and no, using my standing body as the muscle tester, which is what you've been doing too, right?
Brilliant.
I chose to lead by asking about inherited emotions, which would be healing for me and my family as well. I praise the ease and your grace in making this also accessible. I continued and learned that another great grandmother had experienced traumatic betrayal when her 6 children died of scarlet fever in late 19th century Kentucky. She felt betrayed by God and by her dear husband, who had, in a careless moment, exposed their little ones to germs. Not only did she have to endure losing her babes one by one within 2 weeks, she also then felt bereft of the bonds that had meant the most to her, her faith and her marriage. When she approached her husband about it, he was in denial, and she held all these things in her heart. Soon they had 4 more children, one being my paternal grandmother. I knew each of them, and all of them were sweet and accomplished, loving and kind. I asked if she had ever gotten over the feeling of betrayal. Yes. Was it because of religion? No. Her husband? Yes, it was love. Transcendent love is what created the new family I was born into. And love, Dr. Brad, is really what my family inherited. Thanks to you, that other emotion is now cleared, leaving only radiant, healing love as its offspring. I found my great-grandmother's spacious, infinite heart when looking for my own. Thank you kindly. And that's from Mary. Anyway, so there's lots and lots of these, but the bottom line is that this work is real. It's true, and it can be life-changing for you.
And opening your heart as well is the path to becoming and being your full potential, and coming into acceptance, letting go of judgment, and stepping into that pure love, being pure love, right?
Exactly right. Because really, ultimately, I think that's the most important reason why we're here. When people die and they go to the other side, they're never asked how much money they made or how big of a house they lived in or how fancy of a car they drove. Instead, the number one most important question they're asked is, how much love, what's your capacity to love others? How much love were you able to develop for your fellow beings in the world? See, think about that. And that's the world that we're moving toward. The world,
sure.
the earth is in labor. I think it's trying to give birth to this new world that's all based on love.
And I get chills all over my body down when you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Yes, that's where
we're going. Yeah. And see, this work is part of that, because 93% of the people in the world have put up this wall around their heart. And so they don't really feel very well, because this brain doesn't feel anything. The brain in your heart does. That's where you feel. And that's why if someone's really, really hurting you, you don't grab your head, you grab your heart, right? And so removing that wall that's around the heart is the most important thing you can do for yourself. If you're trying to find love or stay in love or create the life that you think you can create, that's where you've got to look, not this brain. This is the one you've been using all these years and it hasn't gotten you where you want to be. It's this brain. That's where all the great stuff is. That's where your perfect blueprint is for the perfect life that you can live. So this is how you get rid of it.
Brilliant. And removing the wall around your heart. Can you give an example of what their work would look like and the duration time? How long would that take for someone to open their heart?
Yeah. Well, typically, most people can do this themselves. Once you learn the process, just like you've learned, right? And you've been doing the sway test to get yes and no answers. It's a very simple process, really. It's all outlined in the book, and you can learn how to do this yourself. On the other hand, I mean, if you want to, you can find someone that can work on you, and that can do this. Now, usually it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 separate sessions to take down those emotions that are around the heart. And so, so if we look at our map here, again, this is at Discover Healing, our website, Discover Healing. If you are, for example, if you want somebody to work with you that happens to be in Scandinavia, well,
yeah,
there are people up there.
Sweden, or even North Sweden. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's no problem. You can find people. But one of the beautiful things about this work is that it's done at a distance. You don't have to work with someone live and in person, although you certainly can. If you're in Stockholm, we've got people, I'm sure, in Stockholm. But it's also done not only live and in person, but also at a distance. And so you can find somebody, you might find that the ideal person for you, maybe you're drawn to somebody that's in, let's see, South Africa, maybe. As you zoom in on the map, then it actually zooms in on the list.
And you would do the session online over the computer screen, or?
Yeah, you can do sessions online depending on the person that you're going to be doing a session with. You could do it on Zoom, or you can do it over the phone. This work, because it's energy work, it works absolutely just as well at a distance as it does live and in person. And we teach you how to do that as well in the Emotion Code book. So you can work on your own loved ones, your own family members, and they can be on the other side of the planet. And I'll tell you, the first time when you try this, and the first time that you're working with someone that you care about and they're far away and you get an immediate result, your life is going to change in that moment, because you're going to realize, wow, I didn't know we were capable of things like this as human beings.
I'm thinking, like, when you're in meditation and you want to, if someone that having a hard time, and you can put the energy, the intention to send them love through a white light, and they perhaps won't know where it's coming from, but I'm sure they will feel something, some comfortable feeling. So we can all practice healing, right, in our meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. With meditation, I mean, it's all about energy. We are all connected. We're all connected.
All one.
Quantum physics. We're all one, really. And yeah, but in the Emotion Code, we teach you a very specific, very discrete, very concrete way to connect with another person, using the principles of entanglement from quantum physics, so that you're able to really lock onto that person's signal in a very, very profound way, and then ask questions and get answers on your own body for them. The only thing that you need to do this really is permission from them.
And how do you get permission? Do you set an intention to, you wouldn't ask them in person, would you? This is all energy work, right?
Yeah. No, you'd ask in person. Yeah, that's what we recommend.
Okay.
Because we don't really want we don't really want people to be using any of the Emotion Code or the Body Code on someone else without their conscious permission. So it's okay. If you want to work on somebody, ask their permission. And if they're okay with it, go for it. And if they're not okay with it, then don't do it.
Cool. Now, what has been your biggest fear in your life so far? Or what is your biggest fear?
Oh, my biggest fear? Well, I suppose my biggest fear is that we won't reach as many people as we could have reached with this work. This work needs to go out to the whole world. I mean, and this is really a God thing. It's a higher power thing. It's the we all believe in different things about the higher power, the creator. I definitely believe in God and know that he lives and is real and loves us, and love is the whole reason for everything. But how this book came about was about a year after this book was published, The Emotion Code. One morning, I woke up and my mind was full of instruction, and the instruction was very specific. And the instruction was, you need to take everything that you've learned about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can learn, and make it available to everyone, everywhere. And so that's what resulted in this book, and also in this in the Body Code System app that people can find.
Yeah, and you said when you were 13, you got this message that you are a healer. How was that a voice in your head, or what was the
Yeah,
experience
it
like?
actually was a voice in my head. It was a very clear voice. Well, what happened was I had gotten involved in computer programming, and my wife and I had decided I was going to continue in school. I was going to get a degree. I was going to get my master's degree in business administration, and then have information processing, be part of that as well. And so one day, it was in the winter of 1983, 84, we went home to Montana, where I'm from, and we were sitting around with my mother and father. And we had one little girl at the time. She was just a baby, and she's 39 now. But my father, totally out of the blue, asked me a question. He said, "Are you sure that you don't want to go to chiropractic school? It seems like a great career, and you've always wanted to do that." That was the healing art that I was most interested in. And I said, "No, I'm going this other direction now." And he said, "Well, why don't you think about it one more time?"
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Okay." So my wife and I made up a pro and con list of getting the MBA or going into chiropractic, and it was kind of long on both sides. I didn't know what to do, but I had learned that there is a higher power. We can ask for help. And so that night I got on my knees and I prayed, and I said, "Father, help me to understand if you have anything to say about this, because I'm kind of on the middle of the fence now. I could go either way, and I don't know what to do now. I thought I had my life figured out. I was going to get my MBA, but now I don't know what to do." So I went to sleep. So that night I was awakened 3 times. And each time that I was awakened, I would have all these thoughts about how wonderful it is to help people naturally and heal people naturally and serve people. And I would think, well, yeah, but the new IBM PC has a 4 megahertz processor, and I fell back asleep. Right? This is such a nerd. And so anyway, the next day I still don't know what to do. And so that night I'm on my knees again, praying and asking for guidance. And on the second night, I was awakened again 3 different times. But each time on the second night, the feelings were exponentially more powerful than the time before. So that on the third time that I was awakened on that second night, I mean, it was absolutely overwhelming. Thoughts of service to mankind and humanity and the whole world. And right then, as I'm feeling that overwhelming feeling, a voice speaks to me as clearly as I'm speaking to you right now, Viv. And the voice said, "This is a sacred calling." And I thought, okay, I get it. I'm doing it. And so I did. So then when I got into practice, I thought, God's gotten me into this. Maybe God will help me. And so I developed this habit of asking for help. It was just a momentary pause, really, where I would just ask God to help me with the person I was going to work on. And it was just a private habit. Nobody ever knew. I never told anyone I was praying for them, but I was just trying to connect. Because see, when you ask for help, you're admitting that you need help. And so, you're kind of humbling yourself a little bit. You're also opening that channel so the help can come. And I'll tell you something. There are things in this book that came directly because they were answers to a prayer like that. When somebody would come in to see me and I didn't know how to approach their problem, and I would offer that silent prayer, and information would just flood in like an avalanche of understanding. And it's amazing. That didn't happen very often, but I have learned things that about healing that you will not find anywhere else except in this system. Yeah. And so yeah, it's really a mission. This is really a mission for me. I mean, it's my life's purpose is to bring these healing methodologies into the world at a time when we really need these. We really need powerful, easy, simple, fast, effective alternative methods. And that's really what these are, the emotion code and the body code. There isn't anything faster or more effective, I don't think, that I've ever seen.
I need to try them all. I need to practice.
Yeah, I've tried all kinds of things.
I need to try everything in your book as well. I think that is amazing. But you're true. We all have a mission. We're here to be of service and
That's right.
help from this transition from third to the fifth dimension. It's many of us. We're all healers having missions.
We are. Yeah. We all have a healing birthright. And this work, the nice thing about the emotion code and the body code is that they're so simple that you can start to take back that healing birthright and start to practice healing on your own family, on yourself.
Wouldn't it be amazing if all the doctors in the world could have this as standard practice when you go to the doctor's office?
Oh, that's where we're going eventually. We'll get there. Like I said, it's gradual and then sudden.
Thanks for confirming that. Beautiful.
We'll
right. So where are we in 10 years then from now? Where do you hope we are?
Oh, I think within 10 years, we're going to be at that place. I think we'll be there where people really receive the best and really receive what their body truly needs. And that was my obsession when I was in practice, is I was trying to figure out, what is this person that's in so much pain, or that is so sick, or that has this disease that's been diagnosed with whatever it is? How do I know what it is that they really truly need? What is the truth about this person? What do they need? Do they have a pathogen? Do they have some kind of a nutritional deficiency? Are there misalignments? Are they toxic? What's going on? Is it emotional baggage? And the truth is there. The truth lies within each individual. And by asking those questions, and also by opening yourself up to the idea that you can get help from up above, that's something that we also teach in these books, is that you can ask for help. It's really simple, really easy. It can be just a simple word. Hey,
help.
Help. Yeah. It doesn't have to be fancy.
I love it. How about food, though? What do you think, food as medicine? Are we entering into a more healthy way of eating as well? Can you see that going hand in hand?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think that's where we're going. I mean, 10 years from now, I think that it's all going to be tied together. There's always going to be a need for Western medicine, which really excels at trauma, right? I mean, if you're in an auto accident and your leg isn't attached to your body anymore, well, if they get you to the hospital fast enough, they'll probably be able to reattach your leg and reconnect all kinds of things, which is unbelievable, right? It's incredible technology. But most of the time, most people don't need traumatic assistance. Most people don't need a drug most of the time. Most people don't need surgery most of the time. There's always going to be a need for Western medicine in those ways. But as the consciousness level of the world continues to expand, we're going to realize more and more that that really we can take care of ourselves for the most part. And Western medicine will always be there, and there will always be needs, most likely, for certain kinds of drugs, for certain kinds of conditions, and so on. So Western medicine will always be there, but people are waking up and they're realizing that taking drugs that are toxic to suppress some kind of symptom that their body is expressing is really kind of a dead end road. And people are waking up to realize that when we have symptoms, whether it's pain or depression or anxiety or phobias or panic attacks or PTSD or infertility or digestive disorders or asthma or some kind of disease process, all of those things are just symptoms. And the migraine headaches that you've been having, or your low back pain, or whatever it is, along with all those other kinds of symptoms, those are just symptoms. Those are just the body's way of trying to get your attention. It's your body's way of telling you, hey, something needs work here. I've got some other problems going on. And Western medicine is totally based, pharmaceutical medicine is totally based on suppressing symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those symptoms are there for a reason. They're there to communicate to you that something else is wrong. See? So as time goes on, this understanding will become more and more accepted and more common knowledge. So I think 10 years from now, like I said, it's gradual and then it's sudden. And I think 10 years from now, I think we're going to be there. It's going to be completely different from how it is now. I think we'll look back 10 years from now on things like chemotherapy and radiation for treating cancer, for example. And I think we'll just shake our heads in wonder that we ever actually believed in those things.
Oh, absolutely. It won't be applicable. I'm getting goosebumps now as well. So what we think we need know now, in 20 years, it won't be applicable whatsoever.
Yeah. Because really we're divine beings and we are made of energy. And so taking care of ourselves by working with the energies in our bodies and balancing things is just so much more intelligent than slashing and burning and poisoning the body.
Exactly.
Right.
And prevention as well, being holistic, you know, having the prevention, eat to keep healthy and stay away from disease, exercise, sleep, drink water, eat.
Yep. All those things.
Thank you so much. It's been so lovely to have you here today. Is there anything else you like to have as a final word before we round up our beautiful conversation today?
Well, no, it has been really, really fun. Thank you. It's been a wonderful time. No, I would just say that if you're interested, you can pick up the Emotion Code book or the Body Code book.
Yeah.
And start reading and start gaining an understanding. By the way, these books are available in English also on Audible, so you can listen while you're driving around or doing whatever you're doing. And
Perfect.
it's time to start taking back your birthright to be a healer. And you can do it. It's easy.
Take your power back today.
Yep.
Now.
Take it back.
Right away. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Viv.